Terry Austin, host and legal analyst from the Law and Crime Network, for a little bit more on this. Terry, what do you think about this decision by the prosecutor?
Good morning, Diane. I think the prosecutor was looking at this videotape and using it really as an excuse to say that there was force by the individual and that the police officers were correct in using force against him. And his whole theory, the DA's theory, Womble here, is that this was used as a deadly weapon and that there was some apparent or actual threat to the life of the police officers or others around the police officers. And so the conclusion that the DA made was that the use of force was reasonable and that they responded correctly and that there should be no charges brought. I think that clearly the public is responding differently. We heard there that the attorneys are saying that this was criminal negligence, and frankly, I think they could have brought a charge for involuntary manslaughter in North Carolina under the law there, and that the force was excessive.
Now, the DOJ is also investigating this case. So what can we expect from that investigation, and is the chance of a criminal investigation now shut for good?
I think that the DOJ is going to take their time, look at the evidence here. We know that Merrick Garland, the U.S. attorney, is very serious about making sure there's individual accountability and transparency. And so I think in this case and many other cases, we are going to see charges that might be brought as far as the federal government is concerned. So I hope that it doesn't always result in that, of course, but I do hope that because it's independent, it's on the federal level, that we may see something happen. We know that these investigations in the past have not always resulted in actions. We saw that in New York with Eric Garland, but I think that here with this new U.S. attorney that we might see some difference. That was with Eric Garner, of course.
And how could the DA's announcement in this case affect the family's potential civil suit?
Well, you know, obviously when you have a civil suit and there has already been a criminal action and there's been either a conviction, it does help the civil suit. Oftentimes you see these suits, Diane, and they are settled. And when the settlement occurs, it's usually because it might be behind a criminal action. It's going to be a little bit more difficult. The civil action is for the constitutional rights of the victim, saying that there was no due process, obviously, that there was no jury. Every individual is entitled to a jury of their peers, and here the individual did not have that. The charges were, there were, charges underneath for this individual for drugs, and he essentially was convicted and killed all at the same time without a jury. So that's what the civil action is going to look at, whether or not he had due process. And so that can continue, but the criminal action really not having been brought is going to affect, to a certain extent, the civil action.
And Terry, are there any other avenues for the family to pursue in terms of a potential criminal action against the officers, or is that the end of it?
Well, I think that they can rely on the federal investigation now at this point. I mean, obviously, at any point in time, if additional evidence comes up, we can see that the decision not to bring charges on the state level could change. But it does seem that DA Womble and Sheriff Wooten were pretty definitive. Sheriff Wooten even talked about the fact that there will be training, and he talked about there were no body cams on a couple of the officers that were not turned on. They didn't have EMS on the scene. They should have done a risk assessment in writing versus verbally. But those are all relatively minor issues. So it doesn't seem as though they think that there'll be additional charges brought.
All right. Terry Austin, thank you as always.
Thank you, Diane.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.